Industrial hygiene has been defined as the science and art devoted to the anticipation, recognition, evaluation, and control of those environmental factors or stresses arising in or from the workplace, which may cause sickness, impaired health and well-being, or significant discomfort among workers or the citizens of the community. Quite a mouthful. So what does that all mean, and what does an industrial hygienist actually do? The answers to these questions are what this course is all about. Industrial hygiene is the science of protecting and enhancing the health and safety of people at work and in their communities. Typically, an industrial hygienist deals with 5 types of hazards: physical hazards, chemical hazards, ergonomic hazards, biological hazards, and air contaminants. A hygienist's focus is on recognizing, anticipating, evaluating, and developing or recommending methods to control these hazards. So a lot of industrial hygiene involves measurements, noise levels, chemical concentrations, air quality, and the like. When an industrial hygienist is assigned to a facility, they will initially perform a workplace analysis to determine what jobs and workstations may be sources of potential problems. They will examine the workplace to determine what hazards currently exist there, as well as what types of hazards might develop in the future. The hygienist will then analyze the hazards and investigate what can be done to either eliminate or control them, so that they can achieve risk levels that are as low as reasonably practical. If once those steps have been taken, the remaining risk levels still could result in harm to employees or the community. The hygienist will determine what protections are needed to control the hazards and keep people safe. The first step in the process is to determine if administrative controls can be used to effectively protect workers from the hazards that are associated with a task. These can include adjusting the way a task itself or the steps within the task are scheduled to minimize employees' exposure levels. For example, a task with a high potential for exposure to a hazard might be scheduled during times when the fewest employees are in the area. Next, engineering controls are examined, since they can remove or control a hazard at its source or can isolate a worker from the hazard. Common engineering controls can include things such as substituting non-toxic chemicals for toxic ones, enclosing or confining work processes to certain areas, and installing local or general ventilation systems. If engineering controls cannot practically be implemented, the hygienist will then look at what types of work practice controls could be used to change the way a task is performed and make it safer, such as regularly inspecting the equipment that is used in a task, ensuring that equipment is serviced and maintained appropriately, and implementing good housekeeping procedures. Other work practice controls that can be employed include putting procedures in place that will minimize potential exposure to hazards that could be encountered while performing a task, prohibiting eating, drinking, smoking, chewing tobacco or gum, or applying cosmetics in the areas where the task is being performed, and providing appropriate supervision of the task on a regular basis. If after implementing administrative, engineering, and workplace controls, there is still a significant risk to employees, a hygienist will look at the last line of defense, personal protective equipment, and how it could be used when performing the task. This can include any number of things, from gloves, hard hats, safety glasses, and goggles, to safety shoes, respirators, and protective clothing. The hygienist will also check to see that PPE is worn correctly, properly fitted, regularly maintained, and replaced when it becomes too worn to be effective. But an industrial hygienist's job is not done, even after they have identified the hazards that workers may be exposed to and implemented safeguards to provide them with adequate protection. They must then monitor the controls that have been put in place to see if their procedures need to be adjusted due to changes in the tasks themselves or the materials that are being used.
So, tugasan untuk awak adalah berkenaan dengan air contaminants. So, nanti saya akan buat satu Google Form. Okay, nanti awak letakkan jawapan awak dalam Google Form lah. Dekat dalam Google Form yang saya akan bagi nanti. So, awak boleh fokus pada semua video. Okay, awak boleh tengok pada semua video ni daripada awal sampai akhir. Awak pergi dekat YouTube, awak type nanti untuk Industrial Hygiene Training Video. Okay, Industrial Hygiene Training Video ni. Okay, awak tengok yang ni. Alright, kemudian awak boleh tengok sampai habis. Okay, dapatkan idea. Okay, maybe untuk awak punya pengalaman sendiri. Okay, untuk dapatkan pengalaman awak tengok daripada orang lain punya. Okay, dan awak perlu fokus untuk Google Form nanti pada air contaminants. Segala isi yang ada dalam video ni berkenaan dengan air contaminants. Okay, nanti awak kena letak di Google Form. Right, so nanti saya akan sediakan. So, untuk tugasan minggu ke-5 itu sahaja. So, insyaAllah nanti kita akan jumpa pada minggu ke-6 ke. So, nanti apa-apa saya bagi tahu semula lah. So, kalau kita buat online ke apa. Alright. Lain daripada saya adalah saya nak ingatkan awak untuk jangan lupa nanti minggu ke-6 awak akan hantar assignment untuk poster. Alright, so kena siapkan lah. Alright. Ada apa-apa masalah, just inform. Alright, so dengan tu saya ucapkan terima kasih dan Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera.